Okay, this exercise 5.6. We have the following assets, liabilities. Floating rate business loans, which is a variable rate asset. Federal fund sold is also a variable rate asset. Fixed rate loan, a fixed rate asset. As for the liabilities, variable rate liabilities are the market deposit account and federal fund purchase. The fixed rate liabilities and equity. Total asset equal total liability and equity normally. Part A says, what's the dollar or maturity gap? The dollar gap, as we all know, it's equal to RSA minus RSL, or ISA minus ISL. The rate sensitive assets are the floating rate asset, which is 250 in rate floating rate business loan and $50 as of the federal fund sold, minus the variable rate liabilities, which is $200 for the market deposit account and $200 for the federal fund purchased. So the dollar gap or maturity gap is negative 100. Part B says, assuming the floating rate business loan are 20% as volatile as treasury bills, the federal funds are 200%. The federal funds both sold and purchased both have $200% a volatility ratio as treasury bills, and that variable rate liabilities other than federal fund purchased are 10% as volatile as treasury bills. What's the standardized gap? Standardized gap is same concept as the dollar gap. We need to calculate RSA minus RSL, but taking into consideration the volatility for each rate sensitive asset and rate sensitive liability, which means that the standardized gap is equal to sum of RSA times volatility ratio minus sum of RSL times volatility ratio. Okay, so let's start. Starting with the floating rate business loan. It says the floating rate business loan are 20% as volatile as treasury bills. So it will be 20% times the floating rate business loan, okay, plus federal funds sold. It says also the federal funds are 200% as volatile as treasury bills, so plus 200% times the federal funds sold. That's it for the sensitive assets. Now for the sensitive liabilities, the federal funds purchased and the market deposit account. It says here the variable rate liability other than the federal fund purchased are 10% as volatile as treasury bill, so it will be 10% times the money market deposit account. This is the other variable liability, plus 200% for the federal funds times 200, okay, and it will be negative $270, okay. Okay, as obvious, the dollar gap, the naive gap is negative $100 and the standardized gap is negative $270. Part C says, does the standardized gap suggest a different conclusion about interest rate risk? The answer is no. In both cases, the bank will have an increase in its net interest income if interest rate decrease, and a decrease in its net interest income if the market interest rate increases. So in both cases we have the same conclusion, but the difference is in the magnitude and the volume. The volume of loss, looking at the dollar gap only, will be way less the volume of loss looking at the standardized gap. The standardized gap is does take into consideration the volatility of each asset and liability compared to treasury bills, compared to risk-free security. That's why the standardized gap does not suggest a different conclusion compared to the dollar gap, but the difference will be in the magnitude, in the volume. Thank you.